Hello, this is Scarlet and Rage podcast. Thank you for taking time to watch today. We are here with our midweek or kind of end of the week episode, end of the work week, that is, heading into the weekend with the Big Ten roundup. We're not focusing on Ohio State today. We are looking outward at our Big Ten brethren and seeing what type of performances they put together on the field this past Saturday. And looking forward to getting into that. I love Big Ten football. A few early shout outs, Nebraska, great job. I like to see you guys win. I wish you would get back to being a winning program. I don't know how you do it. I don't know what your path is, but I'm rooting for you, Nebraska. I would like to see a good Nebraska in the Big Ten. The way that you used to be the SEC destroyers. Every time you played the SEC in a bowl game, you steamrolled them and beat them into submission very quickly. So I'd love to see at least shades of that old Nebraska again. But before we get into the kind of football part of the episode, of course, today is 9/11. And, just for a brief moment, give a minute or so to that. I know everybody remembers where they were. Jay, I was walking into Econ 201 class. My son asked me this today. Where were you when this happened? I was walking into the Econ 201 class in a big auditorium of about 500 students when the professor rushed in the front with his hands flailing and he was out of breath and he was yelling that our country's under attack, our country's under attack. Everybody get back to your dorms, get back to your apartments, get back to your houses. Our country's under attack. We don't know what's going on. We don't know where it's going to hit next. And so we all went out. We all went back, went back and watched the towers fall. And it was just a obviously unforgettable day. What are your kind of 9/11 thoughts you've got before we dive into this, Jay?
Yeah, man. Always a sad day, 9/11. As time goes on, the more and more you read about it, the more and more sad it becomes. All the lives lost and through hate and evil that is comprised a lot in the Middle East there. I can say that I don't know what I knew it was some kind of study hall. Again, I was in 8th grade when this happened.
You're that much younger than me? Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was in 8th grade at the time.
I was a sophomore in college. Okay.
Yeah, man, time flies, man. I'm not young anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, none of us are. Anywho, I just remember that the teacher that day actually was joking about it. Like, we were sitting there and doing our work and stuff, and he's on his computer and he's smirking away that the Twin Towers just got hit by, I don't even remember if he knew if it was an airplane or not, but he did say it was like under attack or something like that, or just kind of joking about it. I don't remember much. I remember some kids were picked up by their parents.
Was he like a communist or something? What's the matter with the guy?
I don't know, man. I mean, he's a school teacher. He could have been a communist. Let's be real. A lot of the education system is filled with a bunch of left-wing wackos, so I don't know. Anywho, a lot of kids were taken home and crying and stuff. So again, I was, I was naive. I didn't really know what was going on or who did it, or that was really my first introduction to like terrorism and what everything that was about. So yeah, scary times. Rest in peace to all the people lost that day. And yeah, just very sad all the way around.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jay, let's get into this Big Ten week. Got kind of a mixed bag. Certainly there was some good.
No, it wasn't a mixed bag, Michael.
Come on,
Jay.
Come on, Jay.
Come on, Jay.
We're winning and moving on in the Big Ten. Who do you want to start with? I mean, obviously the big marquee matchup of Michigan, Texas.
Yeah, speaking of sad, man, Michigan, guys, my buddies. I know like we're rivals and everything, but I understand we have a big Michigan following here, but this is why. Let me just start it off, Michael. This is why, if you go back to our episode when Sherrone Moore first got hired by Michigan, we were not fans of it. I wasn't. I specifically was not a fan of it. Like Ryan Day, he doesn't have any experience, complete unknown, and he's just not Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is one of the greatest coaches of all time, and Sherrone Moore is just not that, at least not now. A place like Michigan should not be settling for unknowns like Ohio State with Ryan Day. Michael, what are your thoughts on that to start it off?
Oh, 100%. I don't even need to say anything really, because I totally agree with that. I wasn't a big fan of the Sharon Moore hire. I thought Michigan, coming off a national championship, you're losing your whole team anyway. This whole thing about continuity. Okay, you're losing your whole team. This is the perfect time to go and find the best coach in America that will put on the maize and blue. This is not the time to just hand it down to a guy that you can pay $5 million and he's just happy to get his first massive gig. It's my understanding he just signed the contract after getting drubbed by Texas the other day. So it's official now. He's I guess got a 5-year deal, maybe 5 years, 25 million or something like that. But don't quote me on that. I haven't looked deep into those numbers or those details. But yeah, I mean it was the time to do it. They didn't do it. This year was going to be a little bit of a rough year anyway, but boy, I did not think it was going to be this rough.
No, we didn't predict it to be this bad. I predicted it to be a hard-fought game, but I guess I underestimated. Well, again, Jesse Minter's not there anymore either as defensive coordinator, but yeah, it was a lot worse than anyone was expecting. Even though like the stats would say it was closer than the final score would say. Michigan didn't really get outgained by that much, but
right.
Just starting off with Michigan's defense, they did exactly what I told you guys not to do. Like, I mean, come on. You let Quinn Ewers sit back there with that great offensive line they have, gave him all day to throw, and he diced you up. In the first half, I can't remember too many times when Michigan actually blitzed more than 5 guys, but it definitely was less than a handful. Texas, like I said, they don't have a great wide receiver core like last season. There was no reason not to go man or zero coverage most of the game. Make Quinn Ewers beat you with quick throws and tight coverage. He doesn't have a very good arm, but what he does have is great pocket awareness and decent legs to extend plays. You needed to take both of those away with the blitz, similar to what I told you to do versus Milroe last year in the Rose Bowl, and you did do it, and that's one of the biggest reasons why you won. Yeah, those quarterbacks that really struggle throwing, and I understand that Quinn Ewers looked like he threw well in the game. He had all day to throw. Like, Michigan really didn't get any pressure on the guy, and I still see it in his throws. He has a slower release. It takes a little bit for the football to get there, but Texas's offensive line was the difference, in at least with their offense, if you ask me, and Michigan's lack of team speed.
Yeah, I mean, certainly one thing that I will, a little bit, I guess, come to the Michigan defensive line's defense is that, Ewers was getting rid of the ball very quickly. So, he averaged 6.8 yards per completion. So, I mean, he wasn't moving the ball downfield, and I honestly can't say that I know exactly what the game plan would be. If it's tougher to get pressure on a guy, I don't know if maybe you blitz anyway and see if you can get somebody free. I don't know the answer to that, but it wasn't what Michigan did because Michigan was just not able to get them behind the chains at all. I mean, for any significant period of time or any significant number of drives, Texas was able to drive it at their pace and stay ahead of the chain. And Michigan defense seemed somewhat unable to do anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, as bad as Michigan offense was, I'm definitely more disappointed in the defense because I thought it was going to be an elite defensive group, and it doesn't look like they're elite. They don't call the game elite. They don't have elite speed across the 11. I will, like the losses of Michael Barrett and Junior Colson at linebacker are very, very apparent. Like the Michigan just hasn't done a good job at replacing talent like that. And a lot of that has to do with the lack of recruiting. I know they got Jashawn Barham from Maryland, but he looked lost in the sauce on Saturday against Texas. I mean, again, team speed, Texas with their wide receivers on end arounds and stuff and screens able to like take plays 40, 50 yards. That shouldn't happen. Those Texas receivers didn't look that fast. I mean, not on film or not in the game anyway. It's just, I don't know. It's a massive problem. I did. What's his name? What's the defensive coordinator's name with Michigan? What's his name again? Wink Martindale.
Yeah, I don't know the new one's name, but Rage. I mean, yeah, the yards were kind of close, 389 to 284. I mean, it wasn't like terrible, but
Right.
you know, a defense, again, I guess this would be a little bit in Michigan's defense's defense as well. If you're playing in a playoff game, if you're playing a high caliber offense, and the weather's nice, and you hold that high powered modern college offense to under 400 yards, that's a pretty good. I mean, it's not a lockdown or anything, but that's a decent job. Like if you've got a modern college offense, you're at least going to be in that game when your defense holds it to 389. And if Michigan has a offense that's moving the ball, the Michigan defense probably gives up a little bit less than 389. And so, defense is not. I don't know. This defense is not anything close to last year's defense. Last year's defense, Michigan fans, was a thing of beauty. I appreciated it. I liked it. I wished Ohio State had a defense like it. But this year's defense just isn't that. But I'm not necessarily ready to say it's a terrible defense because, in a different context, it did do a pretty good job. But Rage, I don't know many defenses that could carry this offense. This offense is historically bad. I mean, 284 yards. That's like a throwback to a poor offensive showing in the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I guess if we want to move on to Michigan's offense, I will say like the biggest red flag I got in that game is Texas had a 3rd and 13 on their first drive of the game, and they converted it on the deep throw. And Michigan, I think they rushed 3 or 4, didn't get any pressure at all. That's when I was like, holy shit, they definitely need to be blitzing because I don't know. Michigan was playing like a weak zone behind it too, and it's just like these receivers were running free, and they weren't jammed up the line of scrimmage or whatever. They had free releases all day, so I don't know. Very, very bad game plan by the Michigan defense. But you're moving on to the offense. It looks like you were segueing into terrible game plan. I mean, just you really were doing the Michigan, the players no favors. They needed to get Davis Warren going with easier hard play action throws on first down, not run pass where the guy just can't make much happen when the defense knows what's coming. It's a shame that Michigan didn't understand sooner that this guy can't make plays from a traditional pocket and appears to be a much better weapon when given the option to roll out and throw. Because later in the game, now granted, I don't know if Texas was really locked in as much, but he was on the run making throws and making good throws, and surprisingly good throws. Donovan Edwards seems a step slow. Should have had a touchdown on like their second drive, I believe, or third drive of the game, but got nicked up in the foot in the open field, fell down. You need to score there, man. Not much to be said about the offense, man. Alex Orgy, they bring him in on like a third or fourth down, and everyone in the building knows that he's keeping the football. Why not run like a play action, roll him out, and run the Donovan Edwards play that they ran the previous week against Fresno State? This is Texas you're talking about.
Right.
They're sending everyone. And I said it last week. If you do that with Alex Orgy, Texas is going to send 9 guys to regulate the line of scrimmage and attack you. It's not rocket science. Football's not rocket science, man.
Yeah, you got to do something to give yourself a chance to break off a chunk when you're struggling to move the ball. You have to at some point start taking some chances, maybe throwing that screen against the blitz or whatever it is, the pass out to the running back. But yeah, I mean the offensive. I will say that the quarterback, Davis Warren, he showed a little bit at times that he's got a little ability to make some plays, but I mean, he's not like a dynamic playmaker, so they're going to have to help create those for him. And they didn't do a whole lot of that. So, I mean, they're going to have to figure out that if this team is going to come together, this sounds kind of crazy saying this with the way Michigan has been the last few years, but if this team is going to come together and win 8, or dare I say 9 games, they're going to have to pass the ball because they're not going to run the ball down people's throat the way that they have the last few years. They're just not going to be able to do it with this team.
Well, they're going to have to pass the ball on first down. They're not going to be able to go full spread because they just don't have the wide receivers to do it. But
well, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. They're going to have to pass like within their offense, but they are going to have to pass on first down some. They are going to have to pass on 2nd and 7 some. They're going to have to pass on some of these downs that and maybe it won't work. But I can tell you this, it's not going to work to just do what they did against Texas and just try and run the ball the way that they have the last couple of years.
No, and it especially without the 5 offensive linemen, I believe all of them are. I don't know if all of them are on an NFL roster, but they all seem about NFL caliber. Everyone from last year, their receiver recruiting is just hasn't been good enough. Like I said that, like you just can't expect to survive college football with the lack of recruiting, especially at the wide receiver position. You definitely got to get some guys in there that can separate from man coverage and everything. Like Michigan, they look small and they don't look like they have many playmakers at the wide receiver position. But so that means you got to help them out. So like on first down, when everyone thinks you're running, do a hard play action, roll Davis Warren out, give him a pass run option to, if the receiver's not open, just tell him to take off and run because he actually has a sneaky mobility there.
Yeah. I mean, this is a team that has to, they have to play offense the way that a junk ball pitcher pitches, and a junk ball pitcher often pitches from behind. When you think that they're, going to be throwing a fastball, that's when they throw their changeup, or that's when they throw their curveball. Like Michigan's offense is going to have to be creative and keep defenses off balance. And quite frankly, they're going to have very good game plans with very good game calling, or with very good play calling. And that was not present against Texas. It was not creative at all. It's like they were just going to do what they were going to do and run it right at them. And it's just not working right now.
Not at all, Michael. Not at all. So now the question becomes, Michigan fans, where do you go from here? Where do you go? I don't see you beating USC at home or even Ohio State on the road. Being, even with Ryan Day as a coach, and conventional wisdom would say Ohio State's going to play extremely tight, but they are at home. We are at home, and we have a lot more talent than you this year.
A lot more. This Ohio State team is so loaded that they could go out in the last Saturday in November, and they could play bad, and they could still beat this Michigan team.
I wouldn't say that.
Well, I would say that they could not play their best, and they could still beat this Michigan team 17-10.
Yeah, I could give you that. Ohio State doesn't need to play their best. If they play bad, they'll absolutely lose, because playing bad means probably a lot of turnovers, short fields for Michigan. They'd find a way to score, especially in a rivalry game. At least Sharon Moore's shown that he can call a good game, and
I just meant the offense maybe is bogged down. It's having struggled get going. One of those kind of games where you have to win ugly. I think that they could win one of those types of games against this team. Now, I don't want to be in that type of game against Michigan. I mean, I think that quite honestly, I'm just being, I think, very reasonable with this. Ohio State should beat this Michigan team 31-34 to 10, somewhere in that range, if Ohio State played well with the talent and with the ability that their offense has to get going, and with the talent of their defense against a very limited offense.
I need to see Ohio State play somebody with a pulse before I can make any kind of prediction on what they would look like in a big game.
Fair. I mean, we've got some on the way. So, I mean, we're going to see what they look like in Eugene.
We don't have many. Not with the Big Ten as bad as it is. And, yeah,
we don't
have a non-conference schedule.
We don't have many, but we are going to see what they got in Eugene. We're going to see a little bit of what they got when we play Penn State. I know Penn State, we'll get to them. They're not amazing looking, but and then Michigan, and then another good opponent in the Big Ten championship, either USC or maybe Oregon again or something, but maybe Penn State. I don't know, but it's the conference is a bit down this year as far as where the teams can be.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. But here's the thing. This is a better down than the Big Ten has ever had, when you've got Ohio State, Penn State, and then Oregon just fluttering outside of the top 10. And then USC up there, flirting in the top 10, and probably Nebraska going to get put into the top 25 if they win another game or two. So, I mean, yes, I would like to have more than that, when it all comes together. I'd like to have a good USC, Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan. I'd love to have a loaded year like that, but, Washington maybe on an upswing, but it's not that this year, but it's still better than it's been in the past. When the Big Ten has been down over the past 15 years or so, 15, 18 years, the Big Ten has been dreadful. Think about some of the Tressel years, how bad the Big Ten was. And much of that was because Michigan went bad.
Yeah, just to recap Michigan, though, I just wonder if they give the keys to Alex Orji. I mean, I guess Davis Warren showed some promise on the rollouts and everything, but maybe you give the keys to Alex Orji, go spread option all year, misdirection. Davis Warren's definitely not a good enough passer from the pocket. But there was a mistake signing more to that contract. I don't believe he's the answer. With this loss, man, the Big Ten staring 1 and 2 directly in the face with Wisconsin hosting Alabama this week. So that's it for the Michigan part. Let's move on to Iowa. Michael, do you want to start that one, or do you want me to start that one?
Well, I can say what I've got to say about it pretty quick, because that's one of the games that I didn't watch any of it live. But just, you don't even need to watch it live to know this is a disappointing performance by the Iowa Hawkeyes to lose at home. And, we hear about how difficult their stadium is to play in. And here they've got a home game against Iowa State, unranked opponent. They're ranked, and they're not going to be ranked anymore.
No, nor should they be for the rest of the year. They're not a top 25 team. Yeah, man, what a fucking failure by Iowa, man. I don't really have much to say about them because that was such a gut punch of the conference. I had high hopes for seeing them in week 1. They won like 40-0 over some 1AA school. And, we know what the problem sometimes these 1AA teams give some of these Big Ten teams. And for Iowa to actually win convincingly, I'm like, okay, if they have an offense here, they might actually be a legit top 15 team. They're not.
Well, you know what else I wanted, Jay, is
okay.
I am selfishly looking, down the road to October 5th when Iowa comes to Ohio State. And I was hoping with their schedule up to that point, which if they beat Iowa State, they've got Troy and Minnesota. They would have been undefeated, probably ranked between 15th and 18th in the country. And it would have been a much better game, and it would have, been a better win for Ohio State. So selfishly, I'm not happy with the Iowa Hawkeyes this week either. Big Ten, we will praise you, fellow Big Ten teams. We will praise you when you deserve it, and we will rip you just like we rip Ohio State when you deserve it.
Yeah, Iowa. It looked like you had an offense in week 1. Kirk Ferentz comes back and you lose your most important non-conference game of the season. Game was over when the Iowa linebacker Jay Higgins actually intercepted an Iowa State pass, I believe, in the second quarter. They had 1st and goal at the 1 and settled for 3 points. That's just not good enough, especially with an offense that already has trouble scoring. Michigan and Ohio State transfers Cade McNamara and Caleb Brown just haven't made the impact needed to progress the offense there. Caleb Johnson from the state of Ohio is really their only weapon. And really the biggest surprise I had in this game, Michael, was how efficient Iowa State was able to move the ball through the air on the road against a rival, against a supposed good defense. They put up like 385 yards of total offense. And that is a massive problem. I mean, yeah, Iowa's offense sucks. We know this. But their defense was underwhelming in this game. They didn't get the pressure or the negative plays that they usually do, or the turnovers they usually get. I mean, I guess they did get that one interception, but they just didn't make it happen on defense, man. Maybe their defense isn't as good this year. I don't know. Maybe they don't have enough white corners this year.
Right. Another Big Ten team, not against a juggernaut. Michigan was at least playing Texas. It's never good to have under 300 yards in 2024 college football. but at least they were playing Texas. But Iowa, barely scratches out 300 against Iowa State. And so, but that's not surprising. I mean, 425 yards is a lot for an Iowa offense. And so, you basically said the whole game. There's no reason really to look anywhere else other than first and goal from your one. And Iowa cannot take field goals first and goal from the one. Okay. Like, I can understand it can be really hard first and goal from the 8, first and goal from the 7, first and goal from the 1. You're supposed to be in your wheelhouse, running the football, and you can't run it a yard in 3 tries. What was the play calling on that, Jay?
They lost like a couple yards on first down, I believe. They tried to run it up the middle. They got stuffed. Like, they had a linebacker like blast them in the backfield. And then I think they tried like 1 or 2 rollouts and they didn't get the separation. And they just don't. I don't know. They just couldn't score, man. I don't really have an answer, but I can tell you that Cade McNamara only threw for 99 yards. Big, I mean, I'm going to lump in a couple Big Ten teams here because did you happen to watch Northwestern versus Duke, Michael?
I did not watch that game, no.
Oh my God, I watched that game, and that game was so frustrating. Now, Northwestern actually has a sneaky, fast defense, but not fast enough to make up for just a complete lack of play calling on offense. Like, that's another team, man. Just kick them out of the fucking Big Ten. They don't give us jack shit.
Right.
Get them out of here. Go get like Florida State or North Carolina from like the ACC, bring them up to the Big Ten, kick these fucking teams out, give Ohio State, give this conference better teams across the board that actually have a little bit better talent. Because I can tell you, one of the Big Ten's biggest problems, especially the lower tier, they just don't put an emphasis on the forward pass. Like, Northwestern can't throw the ball. Iowa can't throw the ball. Minnesota cannot throw the ball. All of these teams suck because they don't put an emphasis on the forward pass, and the forward pass, in my opinion, is the most important play in football.
Could Northwestern go to the Ivy League? Could we send them to the Ivy League? They could stay in the Big Ten academically so that they're part of the research grants and all of that, but go to the Ivy League and participate in all their sports?
I don't know. I think they can, but I'm not sure. I mean, I would look into it if I were them. They would probably win that league, I think.
They'd be a really good Ivy League team. Really good.
But then they probably stop getting as much talent as they do for Northwestern, if you want to call the talent they have.
But maybe if they started off with a bang and won the league a couple of times, maybe they'd be able to keep it kind of high, for the level of player that is looking to go to the Ivy League. Maybe they would kind of snatch the best.
Yeah, another disappointing Big Ten team. I mean, again, there are 2 teams here on this list that won their games, but were extremely disappointing. Number 1,
okay,
Penn State.
Yeah, oh boy.
And then number 2 is Oregon.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on there, Michael?
Neither looked impressive. Penn State, they pretty much struggled all the way around with a scrappy Bowling Green team. So I was starting to believe something was different this year at Penn State. After that West Virginia game, but I don't know. After seeing them this past week, it's there's still some big question marks. So you want to go over offense or defense? Because there's plenty that Penn State wished was better on both sides.
You can take it, man. Go ahead and you tell me what your thoughts are.
Okay. So Bowling Green had 375 total yards. So that I mean, their defense was not, and it was not shutting them down. And Penn State had, over 400 yards, 430 or 40 yards, and had over 220 on the ground, but they just couldn't slow them down and get them off the field enough on defense, to be able to get any kind of lead. And then, 34 points and 30 or 40 yards is not dominant against a MAC opponent.
No, it's not. And the biggest thing I can take away from this is I believe Penn State lost a couple guys in the secondary from last year, and you saw it in the bowl game against Ole Miss when Ole Miss just lit them up through the air. Bowling Green had not that kind of success, but they had success throwing the football, moving the football. I really don't like that Penn State took their best linebacker and put him at defensive end, man. I just don't like that. They should have kept him at linebacker. Abdul Carter is his name. And
Yep.
like, I don't like that, man. I think they actually moved him back to linebacker some in this game when they were getting shredded. But, like, bird's eye view of Penn State, man, as superlatives we gave them against West Virginia. West Virginia fucking sucks, though, so who cares about them? Yep. But bird's eye view of Penn State, man, they just don't have the talent overall, man. The lack of recruiting and stuff, like the 2022 class was good, but 2023, 2024, not like real, like Big Ten title contender type classes you should get, or top SEC classes. They look like, they had one guy in the game, Tyler Warren, have 8 receptions for 146 yards. That was more than the rest of their entire squad outside of that. Julian Fleming is not doing anything for them. Nicholas Singleton, absolute beast. And their run game is like legit, I think. But yeah, 34 points against Bowling Green, man. Bowling Green's nothing like special to write home about. And then, Oregon as well, man. Did you happen to watch that game closer?
I watched the highlights on that game. So I watched like the key plays on it. But yeah, Oregon got outgained. Boise.
Yeah, Oregon won that game off of special teams. I believe it was like a punt return or kick return. Like they don't win that game without those. Boise State outplayed them, which is scary. Like that. I don't understand Boise State. I supposedly they're the best group of 5 team out there. They might be, but they might not be. But this is an Oregon team that was supposed to be a top 5 team. I don't care if you're the best of group of 5 team or not. If you're a top 5 legitimate college football team, you should blow them the fuck out. And that's not what happened.
No. So, I mean, I think as we really look at the college landscape, it may be another one of those seasons where there's just not very many real good teams, where you've got maybe 3 or 4 real good teams. And then, the teams after that are just, good, but not in that upper echelon. And it appears that Oregon, now it's early. Obviously, Oregon could, gel and get it together and get things rolling. And when things click and get in rhythm, it can look totally different, 2 or 3 or 4 weeks away. So that certainly is a possibility. But right now, it's looking like Oregon is a good team, but not an elite team.
The biggest problem from what I've seen is their defense. I think Dylan Gabriel's not the problem. He's actually been a very efficient passer and everything, but it's their defense, man. Their defense is just getting run over. I mean, Ashton Genty from Boise State, 25 carries, 192 yards. Like, wow. I understand he's one of the best backs in the country, but you're Oregon. This is Boise State. Like, come on, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's do a little better than that.
They took it to him.
But again, Idaho the week before took it to him. Now, granted, it wasn't as close as this game, but that was still like, I wouldn't say it was anybody's ball game into the fourth quarter, but it was in doubt. Like it wasn't put away. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So yeah, man, Oregon, disappointing, man. Definitely not a team that I would say Penn State and Oregon, from what I've seen, are maybe they could like get in the 12-team playoff on the back end, but they don't look like it, considering how many teams the SEC is going to get. And then you have all the automatic qualifiers as well.
Yeah, I mean, with the Big Ten not being amazing, I think Oregon's got a good chance to go 11-1, at very worst 10-2, and they would certainly have a chance. At 11-1, I believe they would be in. So yeah, but that'll be interesting to see. But it's shaping up to a big game with Ohio State and Eugene, and I imagine
Oh
both
yeah, it's still
teams.
going to be a big game.
I imagine both teams will be looking better at that stage than they did even this past week. Although Ohio State looked pretty dang good, it's just that the opponent did not have a whole lot of resistance to it.
Michael, let's talk about some good news, okay? I'm
Yeah.
getting sick of all the bad news. Michael, there are two teams that actually won some decent games. Number one, Nebraska and Colorado. Number two, Illinois over Kansas. Michael, you made it clear that you watched the Nebraska Colorado game a lot closer than me. You want to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, Nebraska outgained them pretty significantly. They just were more disciplined and more physical, and they were just the better team. I mean, that's really all there is to say about it. I mean, they it was clear early in that game that Nebraska was very likely going to control that football game, and they did. And so that's a great win for Nebraska. I gave you guys a shout out on the front end, but very very solid win. Hope you can keep it up. Hope you can get some wins and get in the top 25. It'd be great to have you in there. Illinois, great job, Illini, pulling off a win, an upset against a ranked opponent over there in the raggedy Big 12. So way to represent the Big Ten and pick up a win.
Something happened in the Colorado Nebraska game between Travis Hunter and Shador Sanders. I don't know what happened. Yeah, apparently they like exploded on each other. Or Travis Hunter like got after Shador. I don't know. I can tell you looking at this box score, man. It's a little bit of a red flag that Nebraska didn't score in the second half. Like they just kind of went into cruise control and got really conservative, it appears. And I don't know. I think they should have beat Colorado worse than they did. Again, I wasn't looking at that game very close. I actually wasn't even home when the game was going on. As everyone knows, I was at another game. So I don't know. Just something to be wary of there, because hopefully they just didn't go into their old Nebraska ways and just shell like somebody said. If Colorado didn't like quit in the game, they probably could have come back and won, which is scary.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I would like to think that maybe that's why they were being so conservative. They could kind of see that the other team had quit, but yeah, I mean, obviously a good win, very good win. Would have been a much better win if you could have at least put one on the board in the second half, 35-10. But, as it was a good win, beat a high profile team. It's clear that Dion is a terrible coach.
Yeah, but again, he's done what he's needed to do at Colorado, and that's bring attention back to them. I don't think they were ever expecting to be a good program under him. I just think that they just wanted the attention back, and he's done that. So honestly, he's I don't know what he's getting paid, but he's done everything that was expected of him. And I understand people have a problem with him in the transfer portal and this, that, and the other. But again, if you're going to be paying these kids, then you better be ready for them to get cut and no hard feelings. Like, all right, you're not good enough to play here, get out. And I don't mind that at all, especially in this environment.
No, I don't mind that either. I just think that it's clear that he's a little bit reckless and impulsive. He fired his defensive coordinator very spontaneously last year, and then he's not working hard on the recruiting trail. So, I mean, he for whatever reason, he's not doing what it takes to make Colorado a top 25 type team. But Matt Rule possibly is. He's a good football coach. I mean, you're talking about a guy that coached in the NFL. He's a good football coach, and it showed. It showed. They played disciplined. They played well.
Like I've said this before, Matt Rule was the absolute perfect hire for a program like Nebraska, who's no longer going to get elite talent across the board. But what they can do is have a coach like him who can bring in those guys who are going to stay 4 or 5 years in college and develop them and just be well coached. And, they're probably never going to win the Big Ten, but they are going to be in the top 5 of the Big Ten consistently. I would say. They might be right now. I mean,
well, you're very bullish on Nebraska. I like it. I'll take a top 5 Nebraska.
I like Matt Rule.
Top 5 in the Big Ten.
I'm bullish on Matt Rule. I don't know about Nebraska's talent, and I mean Dylan Raiola's been impressive so far. I mean he was a 5-star quarterback. Those don't come around at Nebraska very often in the 21st century. I think I don't even know what Eric Crouch's ranking was. I know he won the Heisman, but I don't know. Recapping Illinois, Kansas, the one thing I'll take away from that is Illinois was able to get the lead late in the game, and Kansas had a chance at a Hail Mary, and Illinois did the right thing. And they blitzed the Kansas quarterback. They didn't drop everyone. They brought like 5 or 6 guys, blitzed him, sacked him, didn't give him the chance to go downfield. And that, honestly, I love it. I love that play call, man. That is that's another coach who I think is great for Illinois, Brett Bielema. Great coach to have there.
Yeah, great gutsy call, and it paid off for him. So congratulations, Illini. I think it pretty much wraps up the show, everybody. You got anything to add, Jay?
Well, just this week is big for the Big Ten as well. I mean, the Wisconsin hosts Alabama, and Purdue hosts Notre Dame. And yeah, I was cheering for Notre Dame to lose that game. I really, really hate Notre Dame. Fuck them. But at the same time, it's like Notre Dame's going to be more determined going into Purdue. I did make mention earlier in the show that Wisconsin hosting Alabama, the Big Ten's probably going to be 1-2 against the SEC. That's, that SEC or USC game winning over LSU and the SEC was so big time, or else the Big Ten would be looking at 0-3. And these games matter, guys. These games matter because, I was looking at the schedules and stuff. Georgia plays a tough schedule. Wouldn't surprise me if they have 2 losses, but Georgia with 2 losses playing against that kind of schedule and how much quality there is in the SEC, they'll get into the playoffs. Penn State, Oregon, Michigan, you have 2 losses, you're not getting in. And that's just the reality. The look test matters, Michael.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right. Well, I think we're good to call it a wrap. Appreciate you guys watching. We'll be back with our regular episode on Monday morning. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you then. Bye.